Good, beautiful Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the HR Cafe, Usapang Trabaho, Buhay at Iba Pa. My name is Coach Darwin Rivers and you are watching episode 137 of the HR Cafe program. Today is June 11. It's a Sunday, and as you know, every Sunday at 3 p.m., we provide you with the latest updates with regards to labor law, statutory benefits, and of course, free training with regards to very seasoned topics that is valuable to you as a people leader, as an HR professional. Now, let us start our program. The HR Cafe, Usapang Trabaho, Buhay at Iba Pa is an online talk show program. Again, it's aired live here at the Philippines HR Group, FB group page, as well as our YouTube channel. And of course, the FB page of the HR Cafe, Trabaho, Buhay at Iba Pa program. My name is Coach Darwin. I'm the founder and CEO of the Philippines HR Group. I'm a certified life coach, public speaker, and motivational speaker, also an HR consultant, and currently the vice president for global HR operations of a BPO company. Joining with me today is, of course, Mentor Alan Cañete. Mentor Alan is an HR learning and development and OT practitioner with more than 20 years of corporate and freelance consulting experience. He's the president and managing director of Creative Moves Business Outsourcing and also one of the board directors of the Philippines HR Group. Mabuhay, Mentor Alan. Happy Sunday.
Mabuhay at magandang hapon sa inyong lahat, sa lahat po ng mga nanonood dyan at meron po tayong napaka-interesting na topic. Isa pong malamig na hapon ngayong araw na to at dito sa Antipolo ay lalong lumamig. For the past few weeks, mainit pero ngayon malamig tayo. So, dyan lang kayo, enjoy learning while we are also giving you the best. Meron tayo kasi magaling na speaker ngayon, no, sa araw na to. Back to you, Sir
Yes,
Darwin.
we're looking forward to our free training later with Mr. TJ Pestaño, who will be discussing, by the way, the best practices in headhunting or talent acquisition 101. So let's start our program. I would like to mention our other HR cafe servers or mentors. Mentor Solder Ferentino has more than 20 years of HR experience for local and international companies. She's the president and CEO of Approach Social Geekers. She's also a public speaker and HR consultant and one of LinkedIn's top 100 Filipinos to follow. We also have Mentor Tina Coang. Mentor Tina Coang is an operations and HR leader with broad local and overseas experience. She's a general manager and head of HR of a retail company. She's best known for online content and blog tinaandmanila.com. And also, like Mentors Rona, she's one of LinkedIn's top 100 Filipinos to follow. Both Mentor Rona and Mentor Tina, unfortunately, won't be able to join us today, but they promise to join us again next week for another exciting episode. So, let's start. If for all of you guys na ngayon lang po sumubaybay or sa mga patuloy na sumusubaybay at sumusuporta sa amin sa HR Cafe, the HR Cafe po is the longest running free training program and virtual program for HRs. We started in 2020 at the height of the pandemic, and the mission of the HR Cafe is to provide timely news and updates. We also would like to impart knowledge and experience that are value-adding and beneficial to our audience. We also discuss problems, issues, and challenges, and provide answers and resolutions to a various myriads of HR topics. And as mentioned, at the other half of the program, we provide free weekly training. And this is facilitated by our experts and seasoned guest resource speakers. So abangan nyo po yun mamaya sa second part of the program. We also discuss new technologies, tools, and processes, as well as industry's best practices. And of course, at the end of the day, we would like to bridge understanding between employers and employees and provide inspiration and motivation to the Filipino working community in advancing HR in the Philippines. Now, Mentor Alan, mukhang napakarami tayong mga subaybay ngayon kasi napaka-interesting ng topic. Baka gusto mong batiin yung mga
Oo.
taga-subaybay natin ngayon, both for our live ngayon at mga team replays natin. Taga saan ba sila?
Gandang hapon and gusto kong batiin si Edison Andamo. Isa yan sa naging participants ng aking mga webinar. Si ano rin, si Ano Postol, I think si hindi, si Chris Igual. Oo, naging participant ko rin siya sa isa sa mga webinars. And the rest, si Ana Postol, si Joanne. Hi, good afternoon. Maaring hindi ko pa kayo na-meet virtually. But dito, magkikita tayo at marami tayong pwede pag-usapan. If you have any questions, whatsoever, kung ano yung mga gusto nyong clarify o gusto nyong mag-add ng inyong opinions, please type them in the chat group at amin po itong ipapakita sa mga viewers. Back to you, Sir Darwin.
And of course, inaanyayahan po namin lahat yung nasa live ngayon. Please, chat your name, your company, and also where are you from? Ano pong location po meron kayo? Kasi alam namin, gusto from Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, and even outside the Philippines, marami po tayong mga taga-subaybay. So, let's start. We starts our program with our wow quote for the week. And Mentor Alan, our wow quote for the week, this has been a quote that's been passed on from one generation to another. It's anonymous quote, but it's been going around. And as per this quote, too much ego will kill your talent. Let me repeat this again. Too much ego will kill your talent. How does this particular quote resonates to you? Ano pong ibig sabihin ng quote na yan sa pagkakaintindi ninyo? Or paano yung experience ng quote na to sa buhay ninyo? Inaanyayahan po namin kayo na ilagay po ito sa comment section. Please put your thoughts at the comment section about this particular quote. Mentor Alan, anonymous quote, too much ego will kill your talent. How does this particular quote resonates to you?
Para sa akin, itong quote na to, this highlights the detrimental effects of having an excessive ego. The detrimental effects of excessive ego and how it will affect your bearing, yung self-esteem mo, magiging bloated dyan, and it will affect also your relationship. So, ego in this context refers to an inflated sense of self-importance and parang excessive focus on one's own desires, accomplishments, and eto may masakit dyan, magkakaroon ka ng superiority complex. Okay? And that will definitely affect your relationship. Kasi when you have when you become consumed by your ego, you become preoccupied with maintaining your self-image, always seeking for self-validation, no? Tapos, magkakaroon ka it will hinder your genuine connections and your ability to collaborate with others. In fact, kapag sobrang taas ng superiority complex mo, kahit talented ka, imagine, if you are an athlete, hindi ka na makikinig sa coach mo, hindi ka na makikinig sa feedback ng mga tao sa paligid mo. If you are an artist or an actor or sabihin natin you are a singer, ayaw mo na silang pakinggan because masyado ka nang believe sa sarili. And you will not anymore, you will not anymore practice probably kasi sobrang believe mo sa sarili mo, ang galing mo, you don't practice anymore. You don't hone your talent anymore because you think that you are very good already at what you're doing. And because of that, eventually, nag-i-stagnate ang talent. Unti-unti mag-i-stagnate ang iyong galing and eventually, you will lose your talent. Yun yung sinasabi ng ating quote. So, anong antidote? Para sa akin, ang pinaka-antidote nito, humility lang. You have to have a lot of humility. an HR practitioner is not exempted from it. May tendency mag-ego tripping tayo. Halimbawa, you belong to a team and you discovered na you realize na lamang ka in terms of knowledge and skills and experience among your colleagues. Yayabang ka eh. During meetings, binibrate mo yung mga kasama mo, pinapahiya mo dahil feeling mo ikaw lang magaling, ikaw lang marunong sa team, parang kang hindi HR. I think this is something that many of us can observe even in our HR group. May mga taong ganito na sobrang galing siguro, galing naman talaga. Kaya lang yung ego kasi nakakasira 'yon, no? Dagdagan po natin maraming humility. Huwag tayong masyadong maging arrogant kasi that's the effect of being too self-absorbed. Nagkakaroon ka ng super bloated sense of ego, you tend to become arrogant amongst your colleagues, amongst your fellow HR. Let's be humble. Let's act like real HR professionals. Let's act as humble or humble human beings. Kasi nagkakamali rin naman tayo. And yun po yung tingin ko sa napakagandang quote na ito. Sir Darwin?
Okay, maraming salamat, Mentor Alan. Bago ko sagutin ang opinion ko regarding this particular wow quote for the week, hayaan mo munang batiin ko yung mga bagong join ng ating program. We have Emmy Aguiliam Manuel. Hello everyone. Happy to be joining again in this learning opportunity from Claveria, Cagayan. Ana Postol is from Greenlight Powerhouse in North Caloocan. We also have Carlota Cesar of Arm Resources Incorporated from Makati, and of course, Ange Rubio, Credit Access Philippines of Quezon City. And Jing Abeliera is agreeing with you, Mentor Alan, sa lahat ng sinabi mo regarding this wow quote for the week. So, again, inaanyahan po namin kayo. Sabihin niyo po ang inyong pangalan, ang inyong lugar kung nasaan po kayo at inyong kumpanya para po ma-shout out po namin kayo at ma-recognize po namin kayo dito sa ating programa. Now, for this particular wow quote for the week, this is my thoughts on it. Ego is something that is innate to us as human beings. We've learned that about in psychology. Ego is okay. Natural lang na magkaroon tayo ng ego because of ego, we are able to support our self-confidence. But too much ego will kill your talent or your skill set because, sabi nga ni Mentor Alan, if you're having too much ego, you become what? You become complacent. Pag complacent ka, hindi ka na nag-aaral, hindi ka na nag-research, hindi mo na binibigyan ng importante yung mga opinion at pananaw ng ibang tao. You are starting to become self-centered. Umiikot lang ang mundo sa'yo at hindi mo nakikita na may mga tama yung mga taong nakapaligid sa'yo. If you have too much ego, you're not able to learn. You're not able to upgrade and upskill yourself. Having too much ego also would make you deaf or bingi sa mga opinion ng ibang tao, sa mga suggestions ng ibang tao. We need to be mindful that no one has a monopoly of skills and knowledge. So every person, whatever level he or she is into in her life, his life, will be able to contribute on who you are as a person. You will always learn from anyone, from someone. So we have to open ourselves to that. Huwag po nating isipin na magaling na po tayo. Kasi pag inisip po natin na magaling na tayo, marunong na tayo, maalam na tayo, ang totoo po niyan, napakarami po natin dapat malaman at matutunan. Sabi nga po ng aking mahal na ina, pag inuna mo ang yabang, mas mabilis kang babagsak. Okay? So, that's it for our wow quote for the week. If you have any thoughts about our wow quote for the week, please put it on the comment section and we'll be happy to share them to the rest of the community. We have almost 50 people right now watching live in our program. Maraming salamat po sa patuloy niyong suporta sa HR Cafe. Let's continue with our program. And Mr. Alan, this is an HR question for the week. Can an employee withdraw a signed job offer after he or she was offered a better opportunity in another company? For example, ako si applicant. So, syempre, marami akong in-applyan. Tapos, nakatanggap na ako ng job offer sa isang kumpanya. Sabihin natin, maganda yung kumpanya, nakita ko yung benefits, nakita ko yung sweldo, yung benefits. Gusto ko yung yung nakita ko sa job offer. Pinirmahan ko kagad yung job offer at binigay ko sa recruiter ko. Pero after 24 hours, nakatanggap hindi ako ng bagong job offer. At itong bagong job offer na to, ito
Mas
yung
maganda.
kumpanya na talagang basta maganda yung offer in terms of sweldo and benefits, at ito yung dream company ko. So, meron bang legal kumbaga, meron bang legal na pwedeng ikaso kung babawiin mo yung job offer or kung i-rescind mo? Ibig sabihin, you will be asking your recruiter to please nullify the job offer because you decided that you would be better off in another company. Kasi nga, ang iniisip natin bilang HR, bilang recruiter, I'm sure TJ Pestaño, our speaker later, would agree. Pag tayo as a recruiter, pag meron tayong hinahabol na aplikante, tapos pinigyan natin ng job offer, ang iniisip natin, mako-close natin yung requisition. Pero pag nag-withdraw ng job offer itong si candidate, nako, panibagong trabaho na naman yan para sa atin. And these are lost resources, time spent, and also the resources spent in sourcing and finding the talent. Sa tingin mo, ito ba isang magandang dapat gawin ng isang aplikante na nakapirma na siya sa job offer, babawiin niya dahil meron siya nakita mas magandang job offer? Or meron ba siyang meron ba siyang legal repercussions na pwedeng harapin kasi nga hindi niya in-honor yung job offer? What are your thoughts, Mentor Alan?
Dalawa kasi yung nakikita ko eh. Una, let's define what is job offer. It is a formal communication made by an employer to a prospective employee, expressing the employer's intention to hire. Intention to hire pa lang the individual for a specific position within the company. So, may pirmahang mangyayari kapag umokay si employee. On the other hand, an employment contract, iba. Magkaiba kasi yung job offer and employment contract eh. Employment contract is a legally binding agreement between an employer and an employee that outlines the rights, responsibilities, terms of employment, etc., etc. So, dahil legal and binding, meron kang legal obligation to honor the contract. Pagdating sa job offer, since this is just an intention to hire you and you agreed, mukhang hindi pa ganun kabigat ang iyong legal obligation to honor. So, kaya lang, ang nakakaya rito, may ethical implication. It may be legal to withdraw. However, it is an unethical practice to always do that. Halimbawa, 5 yung nagbigay ng job offer, lahat yun, inooan mo. Sabay, yung pinakahuli ang gusto mo, lahat yung 4 na nauna, sorry may mas magaling dito eh. So, binitin mo yung 4 eh. It is unethical. It may be legal, there might be no legal implication, but to their mind, ditong 4 na nabitin sa'yo, markado ka na ron. ikaw pala'y ganyan, salawahan. Ikaw, Sir Darwin, hindi ko alam kung tama ba ang aking tingin dito.
I would agree with you, Mentor Alan. A job offer is basically an offer of the company on the possible compensation that the company is willing to give you. It's not an employment contract. Unlike the employment contract, which has there is already an employer-employee relationship, pag napirmahan na ng both parties, ang job offer wala pa. It's really more of intent, a documentation of the intent of the employer to hire you. Now, nasa sa'yo yun kung i-accept mo yung yung offer na yun, yung job offer na yun. Sabihin natin na napirmahan mo na yung job offer, binigay mo sa recruiter, pero wala ka pang napipirmahang employment contract, you still have a window period to if ever there will be another offer, then you still have a window period to rescind that particular job offer. Pero alam nyo po, this is my best practice na sinishare ko sa mga, pag nagtuturo ako sa mga college students na, yung mga college graduating students na tuwing mag-a-apply sila, pag nakatanggap kayo ng job offer, ask your recruiter to give you a week or at least 3 days. 3 days to think about the job offer. Kasi you have to remember the job offer is really more of para malaman mo ito bang binibigay sa akin ng kumpanya ay sapat para sa akin or maganda ba para sa akin. So within that period na hindi mo pa pinipirmahan yung job offer, na iniisip mo pa lang yung kung pipirmahan mo yung job offer at may pumasok na mas magandang offer, then you'll be able to go back to your recruiter and tell your recruiter na, sorry sir, sorry ma'am, I've thought about it a lot and I believe there's another company who will be able to provide me a better opportunity in their company. So I would like to defer to your offer. Ibig sabihin, no, hindi mo pa napirmahan yung job offer. Mas maganda yung hindi mo pa napirmahan
kesa napirmahan na.
Kesa napirmahan mo na. Kasi at least, pag hindi mo pa napirmahan yung job offer, ibig sabihin, wala pang, alam pa ng recruiter na nag-iisip ka pa lang kung tatanggapin mo ba yung job offer. Pero technically nga, sabi nga natin kanina, hanggat wala pang employment contract, wala pang employer-employee relationship, pwede pa pong i-rescind ang job offer. So,
notice period ang tinutukoy mo, Sir Darwin. Mga usually, gaano katagal ang notice period?
Well, technically, notice period in a sense na pinapaalam mo sa recruiter mo na hindi mo natatanggapin o i-receive na yung job offer. Hanggat wala pang employment contract, hindi mo pa napipirmahan.
Sino nagdidikta nung length ng period? Si employer, di ba?
Pag employment contract, kailangan, ibig sabihin, meron ako yung agreement. So, kailangan mag-30-day notice ka kasi napirmahan mo na employment contract eh.
Sa job offer, ano yung...
Sa job offer, normally, the best is bago ka magpumirma, bago ka ma-schedule ng employment contract signing or bago ka mag-day 1. So,
bibigyan ka ng 3 days to 5 days para mag-isip.
Normally, ganun yun. Oo, normally, best practices, bigyan natin ng enough opportunity si candidate na pag-isipan yung job offer para hindi tayo, kasi as a recruiter also, it's very important for us na hindi lang isang candidate yung na-shortlist mo. Kailangan 3 yan, 2, 3. Para kung may receive man or may tumanggi man sa job offer na ibibigay mo, at least meron kang backup candidate, di ba?
Correct.
So, it's, again, for all the applicants, I recommend that if you are applying for a job, ask a recruiter to give you enough time to review the job offer so that if ever there will be another offer, you'll be able to make a smart decision on which company you will go to. As a recruiter naman, as an HR, we have to make sure to give ample time to our candidates to review the job offer before giving the employment contract because we don't want na bigla na lang mag-i-AWOL yan or bigla na lang mag-resign yan pag napirmahan na yung employment contract. Okay? Kasi mas malaking problema yun. Mas malaking investment yung mawawala. And of course, kailangan meron tayong mga backup candidates. Okay? So that's it. Hello also to Melinda Echavaya. She said good afternoon. Melinda Echavaya says good afternoon. Chris Igual, sa amin po sir, job offer is valid for 7 days. That's actually a best practice. You're giving the candidate 7 days to think about the job offer. That's a very good practice. Okay? So let us...
Hello also to Poging Lamig. Kailangan daw niya yung topic ni TJ kasi mukhang magagamit niya sa kanyang job sa HR.
Agree. Alam mo kasi, Mentor Alan, ito yung mga panahon na normally Q2, Q3, Q4, ito yung mga panahon na talagang napakaraming opportunities. At sabi ko nga, di ba, Kaya mabuhay yung ating welcoming kanina kasi tomorrow is a Philippine Independence Day. At normally, pag Philippine Independence Day, may mga job fairs na nangyayari. So maraming opportunities, maraming mga job fairs sa buong Pilipinas, maraming mga jobs na open. So maging matalino po tayo sa pag-decide kung saang company po tayo pupunta. Okay? So let us move forward to
So,
other topic for
mabuhay ang
today.
kalayaan in advance.
Correct, correct. So, update from Dole. As per Dole, the Dole issues pay rules for Independence Day as the country marks its 125th. Naku, 125th na pala ang Philippine Independence Day tomorrow. The Labor Department reminds the private sector employers provide proper wages to their workers on June 12, 2023. Department of Labor Employment Dole Secretary Benvenido Lequesma issued Labor Advisory number 13 series of 2023. Nasa pin post po yan ng Philippine HR Group. Punta lang po kayo sa Philippine HR Group, punta po kayo sa pin post, andyan po ang document coming from Dole. Mababasa nyo po ano po yung pay rules for working during a holiday during June 12, 2023. Next is SSS. Pinapaalala po ng SSS na kung wala po kayong oras pumunta sa mga opisina nila, meron po kayong pagkakataon na mag-transact online. Ito po ay via My SSS and SSS mobile app. So to register po as a member, you have to go to https://member.sss.gov.ph. Ito po yung website ng sss.gov.ph. Register nyo po as an employee or member, or kung employer naman po kayo, mag-register po kayo as an employer at employer.sss.gov.ph. Now, if you would like to download their app, available po ang SSS app through Apple App Store, Google Play, and Huawei App Gallery. Para po sa inyong mga SSS concerns also, magtungo po kayo sa Usap Tayo portal ng SSS. Ito po ay ang crms.sss.gov.ph. Marami pong opportunities para po makonect po tayo sa official social media ng SSS. Huwag po tayo magpaloko sa mga scammers, sa mga fixers. Pumunta lang po tayo sa official website and official My SSS application and SSS mobile app. Now, another updates coming from HDMF Pag-ibig. So for HDMF Pag-ibig po, kung kayo po ay naghahanap ng murang pabahay, yung mga foreclosed properties na talaga namang mura, kayo po ay inaanyayahan ng Pag-ibig na pumunta po sa kanilang website, pag-ibigfund.gov.ph/acquired assets, list of properties, _individual, or nasaan po, punta na po kayo sa website ng Pag-ibig. At lahat po ng foreclosed acquired assets ng Pag-ibig mula Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, ay available po yan sa website. Kung pwede po kayong makapili at makabili ng napakababang pabahay. Mga properties, not only bahay, pwedeng lupa, raw land, commercial land, or whatnot. Basta po foreclose ng under Pag-ibig, nasa listahan po nila yan. At kung kayo po ay nagbabat na mag-invest for a real estate property o nagbabat na magkaroon ng first yung bahay na talagang mura, punta po kayo sa HMDF portal para po sa list ng acquired assets ng Pag-ibig. Ito po ay updated until June 6, 2023. Now, Mentor Alan, updates from PhilHealth?
Okay. Alam nyo ba na 19 o 19 sa bawat 100,000 kalalakihan sa bansa ay nagkakaroon ng prostate cancer? Naku, buti na lang may PhilHealth tayo. Sabi ng PhilHealth, sagot nila ang gamutan para sa low hanggang intermediate na kaso ng prostate cancer. And male members can avail up to 100,000 pesos. Ito rin po ay in observance of the Prostate Cancer Awareness Month ngayong June 2023. Kaya yung po mga kalalakihan na merong ganitong karamdaman ay wag na ho kayong masyadong ma-depress dahil nandiyan po ang PhilHealth para tumulong magbigay ng 100,000. So, kailangan lamang na kumontak kayo sa PhilHealth offices. Contact their website kung www.philhealth.gov.ph at marami pang mga other contact information. So, sino ang makagamit ng Z-Benefit? Z-Benefit kasi ang tawag dyan eh. Z-Benefit package para sa prostate cancer. Sino-sino makagamit para sa prostate cancer? Yung po mga kalalakihan na 70 years old pababa. Okay? Makipag-ugnayan sa designated Z-Benefit Coordinator ng inyong napiling contracted facility or hospital para sa pre-authorization check bago sa mailalim sa operation. Okay? Tapos, meron ding balita. Alam nyo, kung nung araw, madalas na tanong ng mga HR, sino ang HR ng HR? Pag nadidepress na si HR practitioner, kapag meron na siyang mental health issues dahil sa toxicity ng work environment, dahil sa, alam naman natin kung gaano ka-toxic ang trabaho ng HR, sang katutak, kabilaan, harap, likod, kaliwat, kanan, taas, baba ang mga problema, bagsakan tayo ng mga issues. Kailangan magpakita tayo'y strong, di ba? Tayo'y matibay, tayo'y nasa tamang mental health pa. Paano kung di mo na kaya? Sino ang HR ng HR? Good news. Meron pong partnership ang Philippines HR Group sa isang grupo na tumutulong sa mga individuals, lalong-lalo na sa mga HR professionals sa kanilang mental health care. Ito ang Infinite Care. Alright? This partnership with Infinite Care will provide free services for us, mga HR professionals pagdating sa mental health issues. Members to date are partnering. Ito pong ating HR group is now partnering with the Infinite Care. Although meron tayong mga 300,000, tama ba Sir
Yes,
Darwin?
300,000
300,000
members.
members. Kayo pong lahat ay pwedeng makipag-ugnayan sa Infinite Care dahil sila po yung nagbibigay ng mga personalized self-care tools and resources. Meron silang chat helpline. So, at virtual sessions, at ang kanila pong mga makakausap doon, ang ating pong makakausap doon ay mga licensed counselors, psychologists, and coaches. So, sino man sa inyo ang nakakaramdam na ng medyo nadidepress, may mga anxieties, may mga symptomatic behaviors na kayo na feeling mo mabibigay na yata, wag naman. Daanin niyo po sa usap. Nandyan po ang Infinite Care handang tumulong sa ating lahat. Back to you, Sir
Okay.
Darwin.
At para po sa mga tatanong paano ba ma-avail ang partnership between Philippine HR Group and Infinite Care, mag-download lang po kayo ng Infinite Care sa Google app or sa Apple app at i-encode nyo lang po ang access po ay PhilHRG. Yun lang po ang itatype nyo at ma-access nyo na po for free ang app ng Infinite Care. Now, punta po tayo sa if you would like to ask any questions about HR questions, please, we encourage you to post it to the Philippines HR Group FB page. And also, we also have a growing LinkedIn community. We have more than 25,000, almost 30,000 in LinkedIn, and almost 300,000 at the FB page of the Philippines HR Group. Pag-post po kayo ng question at pipilitin po natin masagot yan at napakarami po sa community natin ang sumasagot ng mga questions ninyo. And I am honored to present to you our next speaker. Our next speaker is no other than Mr. TJ Pestaño. He has over a decade of mastery of experience in talent acquisition, recruitment operations, RPO, executive search, and client management. To a full-time HR manager and business partner. TJ Pestaño is a passionate HR practitioner, trainer, speaker, and active member of the local HR community in the Philippines. He started his career working for their family business, Desjardins Manpower Corporation, as an HR specialist and transitioned to working as a talent acquisition specialist for a BPO industry and moved to an executive search industry. TJ has worked for reputable startup companies, SMEs, and multinational companies in the Philippines, holding positions such as recruitment specialist, recruitment team leader, recruitment operations manager, senior recruitment relationship manager, HR manager, business partner, recruitment account manager, and head of account management. So talagang si TJ from rank and file, he grew his career to becoming a leader in HR, specifically in talent acquisition. Moreover, TJ is the youngest board member or board director of the Philippines HR Group. Siya po ang pinakabunso sa amin, an active member of the local HR community in the country. TJ has been sharing his ideas and best practices to the community when it comes to human resource at talent acquisition. Makikita niyo po si TJ sa mga previous events natin pag talent acquisition topic. Normally, we would invite him to provide his expertise. Tulad ngayon, he is one of our speaker. On a personal note, TJ is happily married and blessed with 3 children. He makes it a point to spend quality time with family, and he enjoys biking, motorcycle riding, and toy collecting as his hobbies. Pero isa po sa mga hobbies ni TJ, mangolekta po ng mga luxury cars. Di ba, TJ? Now, we would like to introduce to you all Mr. TJ Pestaño, one of the board members of the Philippines HR Group, and we're happy
Hi, TJ.
to have him in our
Hello,
show.
good afternoon. Afternoon, Sir Alan, Darwin. I like the youngest.
Ako gusto ko yung luxury cars eh. Wow. Ano naman?
I wish I did, pero mga ganito lang yung kalaki.
Si TJ po yung pinakamayaman sa amin. Okay.
Ako, parang hindi naman totoo.
Okay, DJ, your topic is best practices in headhunting, sourcing, and talent acquisition 101. Can you, before you start your presentation, can you tell us bakit importante na ang HR expert sa sourcing and talent acquisition?
From the word itself, the human resources, right? Human resources. It's the heart of any organization. The role of us, recruiters, sourcers, talent acquisition, plays a very vital part of the whole company. Like if we don't hire for the right talents, how will the company survive? Right? If you don't know how to source, how to interview, how to profile candidates, what kind of people are we bringing in the business? How will the business survive?
I
The,
agree.
the heaviest part. I mean, HR is it's a full length job from the entry point of the person to the company to the exit or to the retirement. Little, not really little that we know, but most of the time people would think na ang mabigat na work is compen and ben, sweldo, labor, etc. But if you think of it, recruitment in itself, we play a very important role because the future of the business lies about in the people that we bring in. And
That's
our
right.
job is to make sure that we bring in the right people so the business can continue and it can grow.
Tama ka dyan, TJ. Sabi nga nung
Agree,
GM ko
agree.
dati, pag wala daw talent acquisition, wala nang business kasi walang i-hire na people, di ba? So,
Exactly.
TJ will give you the floor. You have 45 to 60 minutes to present your topic. We have more than 50 people live right now watching us, and I'm sure hundreds or thousands more in live in our team replay. So they're looking forward learning from you about the best practices in sourcing and talent acquisition. We'll give you the floor. So backstage lang kami. So ladies and gentlemen, Mr. TJ Pestano for Talent Acquisition Sourcing 101.
Thank you, Darwin. Thank you, Sir A. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a gloomy Sunday afternoon, and thank you for spending your time with us for this learning session. So we're going to be covering best practices in headhunting, sourcing, and talent acquisition 101. We have about 45 to an hour, so we'll try to squeeze in as much as we can within that hour. And of course, as Darwin mentioned, if you do have questions after this, feel free to drop it on our Facebook Philippines HR Group Facebook page. We'll do our best to answer. So first, to get us started, let's define sourcing. So usually people would ask, what's the difference between sourcing, between recruitment, between talent acquisition. Sourcing, and the word itself, is the process of finding resumes within the recruitment process for recruiters, both third party or in house. As we know, there are companies such as recruitment firms, executive search firms, RPOs, placement agencies, and whatnot. But of course, there's also in house HR, the talent acquisition or the recruitment team of companies within the HR team itself. So, sourcing is the first step of identifying and finding quality candidates for the open positions that we have. It also refers to the initial part of recruiting. So basically, finding and identifying where you will look for people, right? Talent acquisition is already the process of getting the people, while sourcing is identifying where will you look for people, be it in LinkedIn, be it in social media, be it in groups such as Philippines HR, or are you going to be looking at sourcing avenues such as job portals, job boards, etc., or groups within LinkedIn or groups within meetup.com, or maybe organizations or groups that are focused on different industries or different specialties, like Society of Manufacturing Engineers. We have the CCAP. We have these different organizations within industries that you can potentially tap candidates from. Right. Sourcing is also the art of identifying, generating, and acquiring, as we've said, through different means and methods, strategies, possible candidate profile CVs that will lead to potential placement of your current and future job requirements. So basically, sourcing is the very first step. Of course, we did not dwell in the job description, but if you're gonna take a step back, job description plays a very vital role. More often than not, hiring managers will have this checklist in their mind. If you're recruiting for IT positions, for banking and finance or whatnot, most of the time they want the perfect candidate, diba? Pero in reality, the perfect candidate may exist but they're not actively looking, or they want the perfect candidate but their salary levels are, so to speak, not enough to bring in the perfect candidate. So taking a step back, you need to be in sync. You need to agree with your job description before you proceed with identifying where to get your candidates. All right. So in a nutshell, sourcing is the very first initial step as to where you would like to get your candidates, be it in social media, job portals. But if you'd ask me, if you have your own database, if you have HRIS or applicant tracking system, then that's the very first part you should look into. But later, as we go about moving through the slides, we're going to compare the traditional versus the progressive hiring. Right? So moving on, so we've defined sourcing. So in a nutshell, sourcing is the initial step on how and where you would look for candidates. All right. So if you don't have a sourcing team in the office, it's fine. This can be a job of the recruiter or of the talent acquisition team. All right, talent acquisition. So we've defined sourcing. Sourcing is just one part, the very first, the initial step. Talent acquisition is the whole process, right? From A to Z, from the point that you've posted that ad in job portals through the moment that you've onboarded the candidate. A lot of things are happening within that cycle. If we're gonna discuss it, an hour will not be enough. But let's look at an overview, high level. So talent acquisition is the process of identifying organizational staffing needs, recruiting qualified candidates, and selecting the best suited for the available position. It's the whole process now, from identifying what manpower you need, recruiting. So recruiting encompasses everything from interviewing, assessments, exams, background checks, etc. And of course, until onboarding. Talent acquisition deals with the strategies, tactics, and process for identifying, recruiting, retaining human resources a company needs. Like what we've discussed earlier with Darwin, why is our job as recruiters, as talent acquisition professionals, is so important? It's because we bring in the talent that will hone the future of the business. Right? So it includes developing, implementing and evaluating programs for sourcing, recruitment, hiring, and orienting talent. So from A to Z, from the moment we post the job description online, maybe through referrals, maybe through ERP or employee referral program, or simply putting it up on your social media, through screening and interviewing candidates, down to your exams, down to final interviews, down to job offers. So talent acquisition is the full life cycle and process of getting candidates from the moment the position is vacated until you've fulfilled that position until the day one of the employee in your business. Right, so let's browse through 6 points for best practices in headhunting. Headhunting, it's kind of a fancy word, but in reality, this is your recruitment. This is your talent acquisition. Best practices in headhunting, because you look for people, right? You look for that specific role that will fit your organization, skills wise, culture wise. Always factor in that too, the skills and the culture. On our practice for the longest time, we look at we see the culture fit as equally important as the skills. Sometimes it outpowers the skills. The skills can be trained, but the behavior of the person, it's innate. Uh, how the person behaves, personality, the the values of the person plays a very vital role when we profile our candidates. And the skills, it can be taught later on, but yeah, we make sure that the culture fit of the person will really fit in with the team that we're recruiting for. Right. So best practices in headhunting. Well, first is sourcing and lead generation. So we've already discussed sourcing is the first step, right? Of course, you need to have a solid job description in place. Job description should be realistic. You should be able to manage the expectations of your hiring manager, whether the talent is available. Like if you're hiring for the IT industry, there are certain skills that I would say wouldn't it's a bit 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 20 that you're gonna get it in one person. Say for example, you want a full stack developer, right? And you want the full stack developer to know how to code in Java and in .NET. First, those are two different technologies, but you want them both. And then you want them to have DevOps skills, and then you want them to have manual and automatic testing, and then you want these XYZ skills. If you feel that this type of skills will be very challenging, address it on the onset. Discuss with the hiring manager na, you know what, Mr. HM, kaya naman to pero mahirap. Manage expectations. So just tell your HM na it's gonna take us siguro 20, 30 days, and these candidates are making X amount of compensation and they're gonna need X amount of notice period. So make sure to manage expectations early on so you don't end up with aging requisitions and whatnot. So dapat simulat sa pool, the job description makes sense and you will be able to recruit for it. Otherwise, magkakaroon kayo ng challenge later on. Right, so sourcing and lead generation, you'd start to identify social networks, industry events, conferences, online forums, communities, where your specialty and where your industries gather. Like say for example, you're in the manufacturing industry. Ano yung events na meron sa manufacturing? If you're in the healthcare, what are there healthcare groups? Are there organizations that host events for healthcare professionals? If you're in the BPO, what are the BPO organizations locally that you can tap from? So basically, it's identifying where you would start to reaching out and where you can start networking. Of course, there's the usual, the job portals, LinkedIn, but this is more of long term. You build relationships, right? You create partnerships. You subscribe to maybe or organizations or newsletters that have monthly and recurring events, etc. So you need to make sure that you're networking within an organization or a group of individuals, professionals that will fit your need. Maybe, for example, if there is an organization for CPAs, for engineers, for software developers and whatnot. In doing this, in making sure that you identify where to get your candidates, you'll generate a large pool of promising candidates. Usually, the ones that are good, they're not actively looking. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but the ones who apply on job boards or on their job ads, most often than not, it's not that they're really skippy, but there's a reason why they're always active, right? But the ones that are good, the ones that are really well skilled, their heads are down. They're not usually up for new opportunities. You find them through these groups, industry organizations within the industry that their company belongs to. So be it in banking and finance, manufacturing, automotive, IT, tech, etc. So need to identify which organizations you can be part of, and you need to start building your brand or building your connections. Next is recruiting and attracting. So you've already identified, okay, dito ako sa, let's say for example, software development, software developers group in LinkedIn. So you need to start interacting with the people, you know, uh, start joining conversations and present yourself that you bring opportunity to the table. We're recruiting for XYZ roles. So once you have identified your source, your avenue to get candidates from, you start recruiting. Recruiting is already the act of attracting and engaging into conversations. Of course, while recruiting and attracting, what we mean by attracting is building a strong company brand, promoting your unique company culture, right? Across, there's a lot of companies here locally in the Philippines, and there are those that has really good reputation, and there are those who has, I would say, needs improvement, right? So say for example, company A posts a job ad. There are companies now we know that the culture is really good. They have a well-established brand in the industry. These companies, post lang yung employee niya ng opening, they get, usually more often than not, they get a lot of responses already. But if your company is a bit unknown and your brand is not out there in the market, more often than not, mas challenging mag-recruit for those types of businesses. So first is you need to work on your company brand. If we're gonna talk about branding, we can spend the whole afternoon discussing it because you're gonna be covering a lot of grounds. But company branding, make sure you have a good presence, either social media. If you don't have a company website, it's fine, but at least have a decent social media page, a LinkedIn page, and let your employees talk about you, of course, in a good way. It's promoting your company culture, designing a competitive compensation package. This is very key because, again, most of the talents are not actively looking. They're happy with where they are, right? So how do you attract them? How do you attract really well-skilled and high-performing individuals? Of course, you need to have very competitive package in place, and of course, you need to factor in other added value, not just the monetary, not just the sign-in bonus. What will what can your company offer to these passive candidates that will make them respond to your message or will make them explore your opportunity? Apart from attracting, having a solid brand, having a very competitive overall compensation, you also need to make sure that you're creating a solid, seamless candidate experience, right? Candidate relationship management is very essential, which means creating a positive candidate experience from the moment you first discuss with them until the time that you've decided to onboard them or you've decided that they're not a good fit for your business. Right? I think there's a lot of recruiters are guilty on this. A lot of TA teams are guilty on this. When they have received CVs now, so they're interviewing. They went through 1, 2, 3 interview, and then on the third final interview, the hiring manager said, "This is not a good fit. We're not gonna proceed." So, si recruiter, instead of calling the candidate, si recruiter nagsistart ng maghanap ng panibagong candidates. More often than not, we're not able to provide closure to the candidates. If you're doing that, please stop. Make sure that you provide closure. every time, every single time, even if it's just a text message or an email saying, "Thank you, Mr. Candidate, for your interest, but unfortunately, we've selected a better person, or we've identified a more qualified person, or at this point in time, your skills doesn't match the position that we're hiring for." Always make it a point to give closure. Switch it, di ba? Turn things around. Ikaw si candidate, hindi ka nakakuha ng feedback after the third interview. How will you feel? Right? So, it's a best practice to always, again, provide provide closure to your candidates. So we've identified the sources, we've started recruiting, we've started attracting the right talent for our organization. Now comes interview and assessment. So more often than not, we look at maximum of 3 interviews. We're the first interviewers, the HR interview, and then there's the hiring. There's a technical interview or the culture fit or behavior, and then there's the hiring manager. And more often than not, there's a job offer. But for more senior levels, we look at 4, 5, 6 interviews. So make sure that when you're doing your interview, you identify the top 3 to 5 most essential tasks or skills that matches the position. So, diba, when you do interviews, you're assessing the behavior, the skills, the culture fit, etc. Make sure that the questions you'll be asking will give you a full picture on how the candidates will fit in and will do their day-to-day job. Right? So you can build your interview questions based around the behavior, such as, what have you done that's XYZ? Or ask for real life scenarios. Can you tell me a time about in your career where you had to do A, B, C, D? Right. So usually for example, for IT roles, what are the projects that you've handled in the past? How did your projects intertwine with the other department? Or for sales, what's the highest revenue you were able to generate, etc. So make sure that the questions that you'll be asking will help you understand the full picture of how the person will act on the day-to-day basis, right? And then also on interview and assessing, make sure that we manage expectations. Kasi if you're looking at for interviews, baka dun sa second pa lang si candidate na natatagalan na. And more often than not, if a candidate is actively looking, they tend to submit not just one, maybe 3 or 4 applications at one point. So if you can manage candidates the best way possible, you should do it. Set timelines, set expectations, and always keep the candidates warm. Right. So we've now discussed the first is sourcing and needs gen, recruiting and attracting, interviewing and assessing. Now we go for reference checks. More often than not, reference checks. This is the point that, of course, we ask for character reference. We call up the previous employer or the previous colleagues or managers of these candidates, and then we ask several questions. A reference check is very important, so it gives you the full picture. Now you have the right candidate, you're comfortable, you're gonna make the job offer. Of course, do your due diligence and reach out to previous employees. How was the person? Are there any red flags? How are they as a superior? How are they as an individual contributor, etc. So always make sure you check for references, and of course, making final selections. On making final selections, it's a best practice to always have 3 shortlisted, 3 highly qualified candidates that you're leaning towards giving the job offer, and then make sure that all parties are involved: the hiring manager, or your stakeholders, the team members, etc. Before you make your final decision. Have a system in place for selecting your strongest candidates. So if you can use people tracking evaluation software, that's also good. If you don't have, just make sure that you have set parameters within the team to make sure that you hire and you onboard the best person possible. And of course, 6 is the hiring and onboarding. Do take note, earlier it was discussed by Darwin and Alan, that is the job offer binding? Well, there's no law that says you cannot back out of a job offer, but Sir A mentioned it's unethical. You've already signed and you're backing out. You know, if I'm the employee, I'm gonna mark you na, okay, nag-back out as a job offer. Because we invested so much time in all the process, and just for the candidate to fall out. It's painful from all parties involved, especially on the recruiter's part na magsisource na naman, for the hiring manager na nag-expect na we're gonna hire someone. So if you're undecided, yun nga, buy time on signing the job offer. And from the employee side, us as recruiters, as talent acquisition professionals, make sure we manage the candidates as much as possible. So kunyari binigay mo na yung job offer. Job offer is not binding, but as a best practice, the moment they sign the job offer, we follow it up with an employment contract. Employment contract is more legally binding, and yes, we can go for legal actions if if a candidate signed the employment contract and decided not to turn up on day one. It's more legally binding if we have job contracts in place. Right, so we've quickly browsed through 6 steps, 6 best practices in headhunting, sourcing and leads gen, recruiting and attracting the talent already, interviewing and assessing whether they're a good fit for the company or not. We do reference check, and we make final selections, and of course the hiring and onboarding, which is the final stage of the full recruitment process. The hiring and onboarding, this entails a lot. Usually it's easier said than done, but this entails collecting of pre-employment documents, your SS, PhilHealth, TIN, etc., medical, NBI, police clearance, what have you, medical exam. These all forms part and parcel of your onboarding process. More often than not, kaya nagkaka-fall out, the reasons why candidate doesn't show up is because the hiring process takes place. Parang after ng final interview, the candidate is left hanging for 1 or 2 weeks. So don't wait for that long. If you feel na hindi pa makapag-decide yung business, the business is not ready to decide who to onboard, keep your candidates warm. Maybe drop them a message or get on the phone and talk to them and just tell them, you know what, candidate, we're still deciding, or the hiring manager is out of the country, etc. Make sure the candidates are kept warm so you don't end up losing. Also, do a check on your hiring process, onboarding process. If your onboarding process takes 2 weeks, baka yung in the span of that 2 weeks, baka may ibang job offer na at mas mabilis mo onboard si candidate. Usually, candidates are actively looking. They need to secure the job. Kahit pa mas maganda yung benefits mo, or mas maganda yung culture ng company, etc. Usually, it's the one who first gives the job offer and lets them start soon. They go there. It's especially nowadays where unemployment rate is medyo mataas. So usually, the first company who gives a job offer and locks in a start date, candidates tend to sign up with them. So if you have a very long hiring and onboarding process, that might be worth checking as well. So if there's nothing you can do about it, make sure that you're keeping your candidates warm from point A to point Z until you onboard your talent. All right. So moving on with the next. All right, so effective talent acquisition. Again, these are more of suggestions. If you're doing it, good. If not, then perhaps you can brainstorm about this with your team and with your stakeholders. If you're going to look at it, medyo simple lang siya. I've listed down 4. You forecast, you build the pipeline, you get everyone on board, and you spend time. This actually correlates with this slide, the certain steps. So if we are sourcing and lead generation, we're actually building a pipeline. But on this one, it's best practices in headhunting because we're already recruiting. The other slide is, first, of course, you need to forecast. Forecast simply means identifying the roles that you will be hiring for X number of months. At the same time, identify which roles are readily available in the market, which roles are hard to fill, and which roles you need ASAP. When we say ASAP, the business is losing money while you're not able to onboard. Say, for example, production workers. If you have to deliver 20 dolls next week, but you only have one production person. So the more time you spend recruiting, you're already losing business. So forecasting is very important. Again, you need to identify which roles your company are hiring for, volume and timeline. And then next, are they niche? And where do we get them? Are they highly skilled? Are these senior leadership positions? Are we looking at volume? Are we gonna be having the same requisition for the next 3 to 6 months, etc.? It's very important that you identify these roles so that you don't end up panicking, and you don't end up losing money or losing clients or business by not making sure that the headcounts are already there. So hiring the right person for the job is just as important as forecasting the numbers of position. Let's say na-fill mo na siya next week, and then a week after you're also looking for the same role, and you need to fill in the job ASAP. So it's best to always have a solid forecast. Your 3, 6, 9, and 1 year. If you don't want to be too granular, maybe at least the 6 months. What are your plans for the next 6 months? What are your manpower needs? What are the needs of the business, etc. Once you've created a solid forecast, of course, you need to be building pipelines. More often than not, majority ng mga recruiters in the Philippines are reactive. There's a job opening, you start recruiting for it, you close it. It's like cyclical. Lagi tayong running after candidates. But in if you're a forward thinker, if you have a solid TA and sourcing team within the business, then you should be able to close repetitive roles faster. How do you do this? Build a pipeline. So building a pipeline is keeping track of the candidates that you find, whether in your applicant tracking system or kahit pa yung spreadsheet mo lang, Google Sheets or Excel file. Make sure that you curate a list of all the candidates that you've tapped in the past. Kasi pwedeng yung candidates that are not ready, ripe for the role, pwedeng 6 months down the line, nag-evolve na yung skills and pwede mo nang ma-onboard. Or, if they're not actively looking right now, who knows, next year, you're gonna be looking for the same role, and by that time, they're already actively looking. So make sure you build a pipeline. It's like an evergreen requisition. If you're using your ATS, there's always a live requisition that caters to your current roles. If you can create an evergreen rec or a simple pipeline, it's gonna be very helpful in the long run. So pipeline is a pool or a list or a repository of all the candidates' CVs that you would potentially recruit for over time. So if you're gonna be recruiting for customer service, kunyari BPO, more often than not, you continuously recruit for CSRs. So why not build a pipeline for CSRs? If you're able to grow your pipeline of about 1,000 agents, mas madali na yun. The next time you have another class, you don't need to post another ad. Just need to look at your database for candidates. Likewise, if you're hiring for production workers, so rather than being reactive, if you're able to build your pipeline, madali na lang. You just need to look at your database and pipeline, and you'll be able to start talking to candidates already. Then again, building a pipeline doesn't apply to all positions, especially for niche. Kunyari, you're hiring for an SVP and HR. Diba? Hindi naman super dami ng profiles ng SVP for HR in the market. So, it's case-to-case basis. Usually you build pipelines for roles that are repetitive and for roles that requires volume when it comes to your headcount. Right? So, once you've already done a solid forecasting of your manpower for the next 6 months to the next year, you've already built your pipeline. By the way, in building pipelines, you can also keep your talent warm. Having a candidate pool and having a candidate pipeline is different. Candidate pool, you have a pool of candidates, doesn't necessarily mean they're looking or details are updated. But if you have a candidate pipeline means active sila. The data there is accurate, and you're always in touch with these candidates. How do you do it? If you have options to do email blast or newsletters, well and good. You need to be visible in the line of sight of these candidates. I've worked with several clients in the past that we've advised them to go about creating newsletters. They've always hired someone from the newsletters. The newsletter would include the the current trends or the best practices or updates about the company, and then they would always put a link on their open positions. The clients that we've helped with this in the past, they haven't well, they've stopped working with headhunters and they've stopped working with RPOs because they're able to build their own pipeline. Na. The newsletter helps them a lot. They just send newsletters to their candidate database, and they get more often than not they get responses. So these are the recent updates for the company. These are open positions, and feel free to apply. Feel free to refer. Ganyan. So if you have an ongoing communication with candidates, if you have a tool for that, mas maganda. You're gonna be visible to the talent market that we have. So we've forecasted, we've built a pipeline. Now we need to get everyone on board. Again, this is on the job description, on the expectations. So get everyone on board. It means you are in line with the hiring managers, with the stakeholders. The job description, the manpower needs are properly plugged in. You have reasonable budgets and you have reasonable timelines to fill. So kumbaga, everything in your checklist has been marked already. No, you're aligned with the expectations. The skills are viable in the market. You have competitive salary levels. You've locked in the number of interviews, and you've finalized your timeline as to when you'll be onboarding this person. More often than not, kasi diba, there are instances that the hiring manager will tell you, oh, I need five headcounts. Tapos through the process, bigla na lang, hindi pala, I need 10. Or, biglang, oh, hindi ko na pala kailangan yung position. Diba? So, at the end of the day, we don't want to waste our efforts. We want to make sure that we spend our time wisely. So, kung magre-recruit ka, naka 5 interviews ka na, tapos sinend mo na kay hiring manager, and then all of a sudden, naka-hold yung position. Sayang. Sana sinabi ng mas maaga para you would have start interviewing for other active roles, diba? So we need to get everyone on board, stakeholders, hiring managers, leaders of the company, and their HR team who's gonna do the reference check, the job offer, etc. So make sure everyone is on board and everyone agrees with the plans of the talent acquisition. So also, of course, with this, before you go out, if you're not doing it, but hopefully you're doing it already. Before you post an ad, consider internal applicants muna. So there might be candidates within your company that's already ready, that's evolved or that are willing to take their career to a notch higher, or they want to start managing people, etc. So start with your low-hanging fruits. ERP, employee referral programs. So check in, open your recs, your active positions within the company. But if there isn't a good match, then you start looking for outside. Kasi diba the question and why you'd hire internally first is they know the culture of the company. They know the people, they know the culture, they know how to behave, they know the task. In having said that, ang kailangan mo na lang i-train siguro is the people management skills. If you're hiring for a manager or a team leader, prior to going out and hiring elsewhere, check your current roster. Ready na ba? Si employee A, ready na ba siyang mag-manage ng tao? Kaya na ba niyang mag-lead? Kaya na ba niyang mag-mentor? You utilize your current resources and you let them give it a shot. Of course, you spend time in training them the leadership skills, but not the culture, not how to work within the team. Sometimes mas mabilis yun kaysa getting someone from the outside who has experience, and you need to embed them with the company's culture. So you need to also weigh the pros and cons in doing this. So it's getting everyone on board, you're in line, and you're good to go. Of course, number 4 is spend time. What we mean by spend time is spending time in interviewing and in knowing your candidates. So interviewing is a usually important part of the talent acquisition process. You want to see how a candidate will act in formal setting and the day-to-day tasks, and also how they handle stress, how they adapt to changes, how they adjust to the culture of the company, what are their expectations, etc., etc. So spend time in really knowing the candidates that you're hiring. Also, if you can have assessments in place like personality assessment, culture fit, 16 PF, whatnot, it's gonna be helpful. Para you have set parameters that you're able to measure the fit and the suitability of the candidate to your organization. With my previous employers, one of I've spent a lot of time with Manila Recruitment some time ago. Within the culture of the company, I mentioned this earlier. We're heavily banking on the culture because we like people who can think off their feet. We like people who are go getter, who's aggressive, who's more of a solution driven rather than circling about the problem. So there are instances that we've hired people na kumbaga we gave more value to the culture fit and the mindset of the person rather than the skills. We spend time training the person and keeping them up to speed, but these persons are the ones that got promoted as we go along. So consider also the culture fit and the personality of the candidates that you're gonna bring in. Would you rather get someone na talagang magaling, highly skilled, pero hindi naman okay makisama? Or would you rather get someone na will fit and can learn fast? Of course, hindi na magaling makasama, hindi pa magaling, huwag mo nang i-hire. But, weigh the pros and cons of the candidate. So really spend time knowing and understanding your candidate before you proceed with providing an offer or with offering your candidates moving forward. All right, so we've now discussed the effective talent acquisition, and we've discussed best practices in headhunting. All right, now this is high level overview just to give you an idea of what you can do. Of course, this might not work across the bar, but at least you have ideas on how to do it. Again, you also need to consider your company culture, your budget, how are things done with your business, etc. So you need to factor in a lot of details and information and adjust and adapt which strategy will best fit your organization's needs. All right, so talent acquisition strategies. Again, we've browsed this on different slides. Just wanna highlight the importance of it. Boost your brand. So again, employer branding is very important. If people know your company as a strong brand, automatically madaling mag-recruit, right? If you're well known, if you're a huge brand, let's get like Coca-Cola. Who doesn't know Coca-Cola? Everybody wants to work for Coke. If you look at manufacturing or the automotive industry, people want to work for Toyota or to Honda, to Mitsubishi, etc. Because these are well-known brands already. They've established themselves as a key player in the market. So if you're an SME and if you're a startup, or if your company is small medium enterprise, you don't need to have a fancy website, but at least have a Facebook page. Or your employees can actually serve as your brand ambassadors. If you treat people nice, they will start talking about your business, right? They will start referring their friends to the company. One of the best ways talaga to recruit, like, my thoughts is employee referral. If the culture of the company is really great and the values are intact, it's recruiting might be as easy as one, two, three. Since you're taking care of your people and you have a solid process in place, then these employees will tend to refer their friends over. And so boost your brand. A strong brand can be your greatest strength in recruiting quality candidates. So make sure your organization's website, social profile, company culture speak not only to your target customer, but to your candidates as well, to your potential employees. Your branding efforts, often led by marketing communications or HR departments, are hugely important in grabbing the attention of top talent and making them want to apply. Now, when I was working in the BPO industry, if you're familiar with Convergys, this is way back in 2010, I think. Well, they got bought by Concentrix now, right? So they had a tie up with Bench Clothing. So namigay sila ng shirts for the initially for the ano lang for the top performers within the team. So I was doing good then with AHT. So I got the shirt. It's a Convergys black shirt. And ang ganda niya tignan. May Bench, tas may Convergys. And then that time I think I got research eh. Dalawang black, binigay ko yung isa sa girlfriend ko back then, and then yung white. So the employees became the brand. You know, they're walking in malls, they're wearing the Convergys brand, and it has Bench. So people would think na, oy, mukhang okay dyan. You know, like, oh, I want to try, I want to apply there. If you treat your employees well and you have a solid brand proposition and you have really good values, your employees will tend to speak for themselves. Like, say us, Philippines HR group. So we have this. We have our we have our shirts. We provide shirts for our volunteers. So every time we have events and we have summits, yung mga, well, we don't hire people. We're a non-profit business. The volunteers, we're able to attract volunteers because of the brand. Since we're passionate about HR, we're passionate about sharing best practices. Yun, with us doing so, we're unconsciously building our brand, and people want to help us, want to volunteer, want to partner with us. Same goes with your company's brand. If you have a good company brand, people will tend to refer candidates to join your business. On the other hand, naman, the flip side of it is if your company is known as a brand that's not, then it's gonna be an uphill battle to hire talent, right? So again, boost your brand. Make sure you have a good social media presence. If not, at least make sure that that your employees believes in your company's brand and you're able to promote this through them. Make your employees your brand ambassadors if you can. Then the next one is get niche. We've discussed about the job description. Again, you want to make sure that the people you're bringing in are the right people for the job and the right people for the company and with a lot of potential. If you're just simply hiring to fill in open roles, more often than not, that's the usual, that's fine. But if you want to look at the number two and the number three are actually, they're like holding hands with each other. Like, get niche and succession planning. Like, you think beyond the current opening eh. Like, kunyari, you're looking for an HR specialist. You're a startup company, you're looking for an HR specialist. You hire an HR specialist for 20K yung sweldo niya. But you factored in a lot of ideas, a lot of insights to the candidate na the candidate has potential, pwede ko tong mag-groom, pwede tong maging manager at some point. And you do that during your interview, you assess, you ask the right questions. Hinire mo siya at 20K as a HR specialist, pero after 5 years, na-promote siya as HR supervisor. Another 3 years, na-promote siya as HR manager. So in doing that, you've created a solid succession plan for the person, and then you onboard the next one, you start training. So get niche is making sure that the job description speaks about the profile that you want to get. Like, apart from the skills, the culture fit, the personality, and the quality and the values of the person that they're trying to bring in. So make sure na when you write JDs, you're really aiming to get the right person for your business, not beyond the skills, but the soft skills as well. The culture fit, the value, and the behavior of the value and attitude of the candidates. And of course, do some succession planning. When we talk about succession planning, kasi diba nga parang when they say prevention is better than cure. For us, as talent acquisition, we'd rather train them and hire train them and progress them through the ranks and hire junior rather than hiring the top part of the funnel, right? Because if you have succession planning, like what we've discussed, yung HR specialist mo can become your HR manager. The HR manager can become your HR director. You know, it's it's always best to build talents from within, from ground up, and it's always easier to hire junior roles rather than senior. So, diba, with senior, first the talent pool mas konti compared to more junior entry level positions, and they're more affordable. It's more affordable to hire junior candidates rather than onboarding a CHRO or a director for HR or your director of operations or sales director. So always provide succession planning for your employees, not just with not just with really high performing employees, but with everyone. Make sure you have a solid succession planning in place, and make sure that it's executed and you follow and you abide by it. So there, boost your brand, get niche, and succession planning. Again, if you're to look at the slides, these are high level, and you just need to make sure that you adjust this to the needs of your own company, and make sure that review first your openings, your requisitions, and then assess what can work well for you. Again, get the buy-in of everyone. You need to you need the thoughts here of your HR manager, of your TA manager, of your hiring manager, stakeholders, etc. Right, and then the next slide. So I came across this somewhere around 20, 20 prior pandemic. This slide, it's comparing the traditional hiring versus the progressive hiring. So the traditional hiring process is we post an ad, we do an initial interview, we do the exam, we do the second interview, and then we provide the job offer. Right? Very cyclic. It has always been the process. When there's a job opening, let's post an ad. Ay, may bagong requisition ako, post an ad. Post it on the website or get headhunters, or we're more often than not we're very reactive if there's an opening, right? But the progressive hiring on the right hand states otherwise, right? Top current candidate. So basically, if you've already built your pipeline, right, you have a list of active candidates already, you've engaged them, you're in their line of sight. When you have an opening, you don't need to post an ad. You just need to look at your database. Right? Sino yung mga candidates na natap ko na before, or sino yung candidates na potentially who's gonna match this. Right? So tap your current candidate pool, your pipeline, your database, etc. Check the level of interest. Yun na lang. Parang you get on the phone, Sir candidate, are you actively looking? We have this opening. Interested ka ba? Discuss the opportunity, interview, and well, of course, if you have exams, we can slot it in, and then final negotiation. Basically, the two diagrams shows a reactive and a proactive process when it comes to hiring. The the one on the right hand side suggests that you've already established your candidate database, you've already established your brand, you have an active candidate pool, candidate pipeline, and you're able to reach out to your candidate pipeline anytime for open requisitions. While as the traditional hiring process, most of the time this is what's happening across. There's a job vacancy, you post the ad, you interview, exam. So would you rather go for your traditional hiring process, or would you start hiring progressively? Would you rather build your pool, make your brand known, etc.? All right. I think I've done, yeah, Sir Da and A, I think I've done almost an hour. So now we can open the floor for any questions. Any questions and any reactions from the audience?
Yeah, before that, I would like to greet our listeners, those people who have joined you in your discussion. So we have Ems, Dalisay, Says good afternoon to everybody. We have Aina Haminto. We have Stella Marie from Montalban, Rizal. Michelle Bugagon, greetings from Green Metal Electric Manufacturing Corporation from Caloocan. We also have Aina Hamito, Assistant HR Manager for Recruitment, who is currently watching and learning from you. A Facebook user says, maulan na hapon po sa inyong lahat. Yes, it's really raining here in Metro Manila. And we have Stella Marie. Stella Marie. Hindi ko makita yung ano. Saan na yun? So, wala siya. Ito. Daday Callejo Dino says, hi. We have Stella Marie from Montalban, Rizal. We have Ems Dalisay. Christopher Verso Davilo. According to Christopher, talent acquisition is a basic skill na meron dapat ang HR. It's a must. And who else? Jess Chica Napili from Supreme Steel Pipe Corporation says hi. Weng Montes also says hi to everyone. TJ, I have a few questions here coming from the Philippines HRG community with regards to when you are interviewing and looking for someone who's skill fit. Pag skill fit ba, anong ibig mo sabihin sa skill fit? Not skill fit, but more on culture fit. Pag culture fit ba, ano bang basis mo ng culture fit? Culture fit sa boss o culture fit sa team? Kasi most of the recruiters, ang pinagbabasihan na culture fit, yung ugali ng magiging boss. Pag sa tingin ng recruiter, ay nako, hindi to magiging
mag-drive.
Mag-drive sa ugali ng boss, hindi to culture fit. Is that the meaning of culture fit? And is that something that as a recruiter you should be practicing?
It's best if we cover both. Again, maybe if it's an IC role, if it's an individual contributor role and works directly with the one up, then definitely you factor in the culture fit with the direct manager. But if the person will be working within a team and with a huge team, then yes, you should assess the culture fit within the team. What we usually do is we let the people involved, the people that the person is going to be working with, we let them have an interview as well. Kunyari, yung first interview is HR, and then after the HR, bago kay hiring manager, dun sa team. And then the team will do a panel interview, and then we'll discuss amongst themselves na, Sir Tej, I think good fit siya because XYZ. So you let, again, yung one point earlier is you need to have everyone on board. So if you're assessing the culture fit of the candidate for the team, then you let the team meet with them. If you're assessing the culture fit of the candidate for the direct manager, then of course, HM should be there. As to what questions you'll be asking, usually you have company values, diba? Mission, vision, company values, and whatnot. We usually ask that. So amongst our company values, what struck you the most? And then you'll be able to assess if they will drive with the culture and values of your business.
Okay. And then, teacher, another question here is that some recruiters of some companies are asking for the pay slip of the most current employer. Based on data privacy law, this is something that should not be shared. But why are recruiters still asking for pay slip? And is this a requirement?
Yeah, with the new laws nga, the data privacy, and even with other companies having a non-disclosure agreement, sometimes there are candidates na talagang they wouldn't give it to you. They would tell you we have signed an agreement, a non-disclosure agreement with their business, ganyan. I've encountered this actually.
Pero TJ, what's the reason why recruiters are asking for payslip? Kasi for me if there is already a salary range that is allotted for the position, I don't need the payslip of the previous company kasi I already know what I can offer to the person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would kasi ang napapansin ko sa iba mga team members ko when I was handling recruitment before, tingin nila nakaka-save sila lang ng pera sa company pag halimbawa ang window ng salary range is let's say 20 to 25,000. Tapos ang previous compensation lang ng applicant, minimum wage lang siya. Tapos ang offeran niya ng mababa kesa doon sa talagang wage na in-approve ng management na 20 to 25, offeran lang niya ng 18. Siyempre si applicant, masaya siya kasi 18,000. Mas mataas pa doon sa minimum wage. Pero basically, the approved budget for the position is between 20 to
Higher.
25.
Yep.
Ang tingin ng recruiter, he's saving money for the company. Is this something correct? Is this something that should be tawag dito, encouraged? Kasi for me, in my opinion, based on data privacy, based on non-disclosure agreement, we should never ask for payslip. Kasi it's a very, ano ba tawag natin doon, Alan? Is napakasinaunang
Traditional na
process
yun.
yun. Sinaunang process
Practice.
na hingin na pero anong pinagmumulan nito, TJ?
It's usually to make sure that whatever the claims of the candidate are factual. Kasi
But why is it important? Why do you need to question the integrity of the person when it comes to his pay? And you already have salary bracket approved.
Yep. Well, my personal take is I would stick with the salary range and I would pay based on the skills, right? That's my personal opinion. But then again, for companies, if we're to put ourselves in their shoes, ayun nga, like what you've mentioned, others would see it as cost savings na I'm gonna onboard this person at 18K, and then after 2 years, maybe I can give her another 2K, and after 5 years, I can give another 3K. So in a span of 5 years, you kept the person and na-increase mo siya nang hindi na harm yung bottom lines mo, 'di ba? Yung P&L responsibilities mo. That's how other recruiters look at it. But for me, I would always pay based on the skills and on the salary brackets. Like we've done this many times in the past na, especially for software developers, for some reason may mga companies na ang bayad, yung iba, may mga companies na ang pasweldo nila sa devs nila mga 15K ganyan, 18K. Pero in perfect reality, yung sweldo is yung skills niya pang 50K na. 'Di ba? So we do that. I mean, we would pay based on skills. I've actually experienced na yung sweldo niya is 45, infera namin ng 90. O, di ba? Times 2. Pero yun, nandun na yung skills niya eh. Like, he had numerous skill sets na sabi ko sa kanya, ba't ganyan lang yung sweldo mo? So anyhow, my personal thoughts, we pay based on the skills. That's fair on the candidate side and on the market rates. But then again, there are companies na, yun nga, they see it as cost savings and they see it as, kumbaga for them, it's a win-win na i-increase niya si candidate and they get to keep the candidate, in doing such.
Mga kaibigan, kung naghahanap kayo ng headhunter, ito po si TJ. Dahil i-rate kayo na mataas. Di ba?
Hindi naman nag-headhunt kayo.
Tama si DJ kasi chine-check mo lang kasi pag over exaggerated yung dineclare na sweldo, maaring gawin yun ng recruiter to check. Kaya lang sabi nga natin traditional practice na yan. May kwento nga yung sumasagot yung aplikante sa application form, nakasusulat doon, current salary in your current position. Nag-a-apply siya sa kumpanyang yan, nakalagay ron. Sinulat niya 12,000 pesos monthly. Tapos, starting salary from your current position, 12,000 monthly. Reason for leaving your current position, 12,000 monthly. Hindi pala nagbago kaya umaalis. Kaya may mga aplikante na ini-exaggerate para tumaas naman daw. Ano masabi mo ron, TJ?
I would say kasi yun nga, yung fair treatment and wages, sadly medyo may iba na behind especially yung mga homegrown talents na in reality yung sweldo niyan dapat magkano na So I would say make it a point na we keep abreast the market practice.
That's right.
Kung ano yung sinusweldo sa market, dapat nandun tayo. Otherwise, mawawalan tayo ng empleyado, di ba? Madaling ma-pirate, madaling matap. So,
correct.
Make sure you have a visibility within your competitors and within the market rates. And If you're behind, i-align mo na lang. Adjust
So,
the salary levels of your current team. Otherwise, you'll end up hiring and hiring over and over again.
yun.
There's a comment
Yes.
here, TJ. We asked for payslip from an applicant when we had to justify to management why we had to request for adjustment on the hiring rate. Um, for me, before I give the floor to you, if you're going to ask management to approval for to adjust the hiring rate of a candidate, it means that you did not do your research on the
Yep.
salary bracket for that
Yep.
particular
Yep.
position.
Yep.
That's the reality. Real talk lang
Yep.
tayo, mga kapatid. Kasi, ibig sabihin nito, hindi kayo nag-research maigi from minimum, median to maximum na binibigay ng industry sa kanong competitor. Kaya hindi alam ni management na ito pala yung ito na pala yung industry rate. But if you have to pay to ask for that, I think that's something that it's really up to you. But for me, that's under against data privacy law. TJ, for you.
Same. Agree with that. Again, get everyone on board and job description. Like simulat sa pool. If you're trying to push for that increase, then it might mean na hindi natin siya na-align early on. Why would you try and negotiate it the latter part? Dapat una pa lang. If you discuss with the hiring manager and then the hiring manager says na hindi, hanggang 60K lang yung sweldo ko. Pero alam mo on your own na no, that 60K is not gonna work. 60K is this, you're gonna get this skills with the 60K. If you wanna get this skills, you up it to 80K, or like managing expectations. Again, if that's the case, then I would go back on the initial conversations. What did we agree on? And get it documented. Like best practice, get it documented either through email or to your ATS screenshot na hiring manager agreed to pay 120 for these skills. Tapos ibalik mo kay hiring manager. Diba? Ipa-confirm mo sa kanya para pag nag-align kayo, if it's happening, you have to recalibrate and you have to ask for approval. If you've done this on the onset, pwede mong ibalik sa kanya yung document na hiring manager, we've agreed ito yung sweldo eh. But on this instance, if it's there already, then just present your data. If you have a saturation report, well and good. Pwede mong ipakita na hiring manager, ito yung 100 candidates sa tinap namin. And then ganito yung mga sweldo nila. So it's just right that we offer this candidate the salary. Always be
my opinion on this. If you encounter a candidate that is over and beyond your approved bracket with your business leader, why should you why would you continue why should you continue to pursue that candidate over and above the budget nga, di ba?
Unless otherwise sinabi ni HM mo na we can flex for special, for really good candidates.
That's something that you need to to identify. Pag sila ibang flex, gaano ka flex?
Kasi parang how far can you flex, di ba? Parang ano yung cap mo, di ba?
Ano yung cap, ano yung ceiling mo?
TJ, may dilemma ang maraming company, lalo na yung mga medium and small scale, no. You mentioned that they should have Darwin mentioned that they should have done their research as to how much a particular position is being offered right now in the job market. And that means meron silang copy siguro ng current salary survey of a particular position. Mahal yun eh. At yung mga malilit na kumpanyang to, usually doesn't have the budget. Kaya tuloy, nagre-rely na lang sila kung ano yung trend ng mga nag-a-apply, kung magkakano yung, kaya tinatanong nila para meron silang idea. May mga website ba na available locally who are also sharing this kind of information so that these small companies doesn't have to pay so much by just getting this information? May alam ka bang ganun?
Off the top of my head, Glassdoor. Pero Glassdoor is more of Para you can create a free account on Glassdoor, pero it has X number of ano lang of attempts lang eh. And then for LinkedIn, what was it, heat maps? Pero may feature din si LinkedIn na can let you run that eh. But yeah, Glassdoor is one, and I'm trying to look yung LinkedIn eh.
Ako, I'll add to that, TJ. Glassdoor, LinkedIn. And to add, you can also check the ranges and job street for a particular role or position. You can also go to payscale.com.
Yun,
TJ,
yeah, Payscale. Yep.
com. You
Yun.
can also check information from Indeed. And you know what? If you're really searching, i-Google mo lang 2022 salary pay for the Philippines. There are a lot of vendors who are actually
Good
providing
video.
it for free, no? Yung mga white papers nila. May mga kanya-kanya silang report eh. And
But are they updated?
for that particular year, yes. For the particular year.
Okay.
Yep.
Marami
Usually
nag-o-offer.
vendors, headhunting firms, they give this for free because they also want this readily available for their clients.
Yun. Yung mga kliyente ko rin na nagtatanong, wag niyo na po akong kulitin. Yung mga binanggit nila na website can go there already.
Yeah,
Alright.
payscale.com. Yeah, I forgot.
Paiba
Yeah.
tayo, Sir TJ. Nowadays kasi AI is becoming a very, very good tool. Sa recruitment yata ginagamit na rin. Pero,
Mawala na trabaho si TJ sa AI.
oo, sa tingin mo ba, this is really a big threat to the recruitment industry and the headhunters?
You know, simple answer, no. No, definitely not. Kasi first, who created AI, diba? Tao, right? I mean, I've encountered this. We have someone pitched to us about a software who can filter through CVs, doing keyword matches, right? So doing keyword matches. I think siguro on the sourcing part, potentially yes, but on the actual HRTA interview, definitely not. Because there's always you need the human factor, the human instinct, the recruitment instinct to know whether the candidate's a good fit or not. But for sourcing, yes, there are a couple of vendors that we had pitch with. Pero maganda, in fairness. Kunyari, meron kang database na parang keyword match lang talaga siya. Di ba, we run Boolean search strings. You put that Boolean on that interface, and then it pulls out the CVs. Pero you still have to read the CV after.
Oo.
So it's gonna do a generic run of the keywords you put in, and then present you the short list. But still, you have to review, and you have to be on the phone and call them.
TJ, siguro it's best if you can define what Boolean is, Boolean search. Kasi maraming recruiters ang hindi pa gumagamit nung practice ng Boolean search, di ba? Yung mga entry level, hindi alam kung paano gumawa ng Boolean search.
Okay, invite mo ako ulit kasi yun yung topic natin. Right. But Boolean searching is basically, like when I've interviewed yung mga freshers, medyo hindi nila alam to, pero matanda na siguro talaga tayo. But anyway, Boolean searching is you use these Boolean operators to search for profiles, right? Yung plus, yung minus, and or and not. So you use this to pull up CVs. You can run search strings within Google. Kunyari sa Google, open ka ng Google Chrome, and then you type Human Resources Manager plus Philippines plus LinkedIn. Like, see the results that it can pull you. As you can further your search. You can make your string longer, so it's gonna be more targeted. And maybe we can do that. Maybe one session, let's do Boolean search strings for an hour, and that's gonna be fun. I think
There's a message here, TJ, for you. Thank you for providing, Sir TJ, this valuable knowledge. We receive a large number of resumes each day, making it difficult for us to properly monitor our talent pool. Therefore, I was wondering, sir, if you had any recommendations for applicant monitoring tracking.
First up is, meron ba kayong spreadsheet? If you don't want to pay, Google Sheets or Excel file, just put in, or let's go to a question, guys, where do they apply to? Is it through their website? Do they have an applicant tracking system? Kasi if it's through the website, I suppose you have an ATS. If you don't, I would go for Google Forms. Google Forms is free. You just need to be techy enough to put out to establish your form, and then it routes to a Google spreadsheet, and then that can be your starting point. Google Google Sheets. But if you're gonna look at applicant tracking systems, there's a lot in the market, and they're
Both
not cheap.
both
Yeah,
locally made and
locally made,
internationally.
internationally made. But again, they're not cheap.
They
So
just,
I
yeah,
suggest
ayun lang ang ano, it's not cheap. You have to spend hundreds of thousands or
mabigat yan.
millions.
Yep,
It.
yep. And you're gonna get to have the buy-in of your stakeholders, or probably your CFO. Ito na naman yung HR and the finance conversation lagi. But siguro to start off with, spreadsheets will not hurt. Google Sheets or Excel file, and then you just need to slot in everyone there, and then you just maybe put in a column that has their skills, and then put in formulas that would let you know how long have they applied, etc.
Well, but if you were planning to scale your organizations to hundreds, thousands, or multiple sites, I think it's best to really invest
Get an
in
ATS. Yep.
applicant tracking system.
Yep.
Kasi
Get
that's
an
something that that's something that the company will be using for the longest time, and
Yes.
help in terms of really identifying para hindi masayang yung mga candidates na nag-apply sa inyo. You can still recycle the data that is coming through your applicant
Yep.
tracking system.
That's
Another
the
one,
pool.
TJ here, there are recruiters that don't do reference checks anymore. Talaga? You don't do reference check due to the urgency of the hiring and
That's
or believe that's not reliable considering that the reference are recommended by the candidate. Maybe a good friend or requested to give good feedback. What is your recommendation sa guarantee that reference checks or objectives are met? Bago to sagutin ni TJ, magbigay lang ako ng opinion kasi this is something that is for me very alarming. If you do not do reference checks, recruiters, it means you're not doing your job properly. It means that you're failing as an HR professional. Kasi reference check is you're the gatekeeper di ba? Di ba, TJ? As a recruiter, you're the gatekeeper of the company. And part of your responsibility as a gatekeeper, you protect your company from unscrupulous individuals who might destroy your company or who might be a problematic employee to your company. If you do not do background screening or reference checks, then you're not doing your job correctly. If you're saying that it's unreliable to ask for recommendations for candidates, mali ka. Ba't ka kasi nag-a-ask ng reference checks na kilala ng candidate? Ang i-ask mong reference check, yung immediate manager ng dating employee, yung HR ng dating employee, huwag yung mga friends niya. Kung friends niya, oo naman, di ba?
Ninong, tsaka uncle.
Yung yung kasama niya pag yung kasama niya pag lunch break.
Kumpare.
Agree with that. Measure red flag if you're not doing reference checks. I mean, kasi diba, when you get for character references, you usually get yung most 3 recent employers. Sabihin mo ng 20 years siya dun sa company na yun, you get the immediate manager. Diba? You get the immediate manager, you get someone who's a direct report, and then you get the HR. We as HR, we have high value for integrity. We will never lie, right? So if i-reference check mo yan kahit sa HR lang na, I would just want to check yung, usually naman like yung onboarding and last date, di ba? Parang if you do employment check, lang, how long has the employee been with the business? How long, what was the employee's last pay? Are there any issues with the employee? You don't need to get this from the reference. Get this from their HR. Diba? Like, check the company, look for the HR, and send an email to the HR or call the HR. But it's a bit of a red flag if you don't do reference checks. Medyo nakakatakot yan. Like, at least get an NBI or police clearance, right? But then again, yun nga you want to make sure that we bring in the right people for the organization. So if need be, if you have to pay, there are third-party providers who does reference checks. A lot. If Google man, madami. May fact check, ganyan, may mga, marami sila. But please do put in a reference check in place.
TJ, another question here from the group. Does recruiters, do they, kasi pinag-usapan yung reference check, di ba? do recruiters put value on the recommendation letters coming from government officials, coming from schools, or coming from, let's say, parish priests or religious personalities or influencers? Kasi ako as a recruiter before, I remember nakaka-receive ako ng aplikante, CV, tapos
May mga recommendation letter.
recommendation coming from a congressman, coming from a senator, coming from a priest. Is that something that that
May
holds
value
more
add ba siya?
information?
I mean, it's like getting good moral, 'di ba? Parang it's like you're getting good moral conduct. To some extent, there are companies who still values it. Yes. So simply put, yes, it still does add a little bit of value. But more of recent trends is really the CV itself, 'di ba? The track record, the CV, the accomplishments, etc. But yes, it still does add value. I remember may in-interview din ako na ganyan. Pagpasok ko dun sa interview room, nilagay na niya as in nasa table, parang CV, tapos pero ano to exec to ano to parang senior project manager. Although parang from Singapore, bumalik siya sa Pilipinas, as ako yung na-interview ko siya. Nandun, tapos may recommendation letter from the previous manager sa Singapore. So, I was like, oh wow, okay. First time ko nakita. So, okay, sige, this is helpful. Kinuha ko, kinulate ko, tapos forward ko dun sa client ko, nagustuhan nila. So, we ended up hiring the person. It still does add some value. Yeah.
Siguro ingat lang, wag lang yung political figure na corrupt.
Yeah.
Imbis maka-add value, makasira pa.
Alan, do you have other questions for TJ?
Yeah, so far natanong ko na. Very curious kasi ako sa ano ang impact ng AI sa headhunting. And so far nasagot niya naman yung lalong
TJ,
napapadali yung trabaho.
Thank you, Mentor Alan. TJ, siguro last question before your final words. Since pinag-uusapan natin ng hiring, pag-usapan natin ng hiring sa HR, mababa ba talaga ang sweldo ng isang HR? How would you invite people who are planning to transition, shift to HR, or students planning to take an HR career, or people who like to transition to an HR career? Kasi sinasabi nilang HR daw is a very low paying job. Totoo ba to? What's your opinion?
That's not true. Tanong natin si Darwin kung magkano sweldo. Well, to start off with, kasi depends on the company, right? Depends on the company. If the company, paano ba to? How do I coin this? Kasi there are companies who put a lot of value in HR. So usually these are the companies na yung HR nila entry level starts at 18, 20K. That's good. That's very good. May mga companies naman na sees HR as the least contributing department in their business. If kung ako yung applicant tapos ganun yung tingin nila, ganun yung tingin ng company sa HR, I would think twice kung a-applyan ko yan. Kasi there's a lot of value that we HR professionals bring to the table. I think I would highly suggest na best practices is you want your people well taken care of. You take care of the people who takes care of your people. Right? So in saying that, kung yung call center agent mo, ang sweldo is 25, tapos ang HR mo 15, come on man, your HR guy takes care of the concerns of your agents, 'di ba? Parang at least
I like that I like that logic, TJ. Hello po sa lahat ng employers.
May pahabol lang akong question Yung among the industries, kayong mga headhunter, I'm sure you know this. Among the industries na clients ninyo, anong industry ang pinakamataas ang salary range?
Or what's the highest salary range right now for HR, TJ? That you've encountered?
No, not necessarily HR. Any profession.
Project ng mga gusto mag-transition.
Sige. Yun muna. Tapos yun sa akin yung any industry.
It's still the IT. So anything that IT related. So kasi when we say IT,
technology.
So it encompasses everything. IT can be BPO then, can be shared services, can be financial services, can be tech, can be anything that's technology driven. For us it falls under IT. So the BPO, diba? The BPO industry has a lot
Right.
of IT demands, ganyan. They still have the high, salary bracketing wise, BPO, IT, shared services, knowledge services, and ito, yung financial services like actuarial science. Wow, like really yung mga sweldo ng mga yan. Dapat nag-finance ako dati.
Actuarial
Hindi tayo
science.
magaling sa
Usually
math.
still the same. Yep. BPO, IT, shared services, these are still the
The top.
medyo competitive yung salary levels.
All right. So, yung pala magandang talunan na profession. Okay.
Yeah, kasi ito yung mga HR practitioners nila are competitive din yung sweldo na alam mo yun. Kasi if you look at medyo pag kinumpare natin sa local, medyo ahead yung sweldo ng HR team ng mga ganitong industry.
EJ, gawin natin, i-excite natin yung mga nagsa-start pa lang na magbuo ng career sa HR. What is the salary range in the market right now for HR managers and above? HR managers to, let's say, CHROs.
CHROs are like really high up there. Like if you're looking at CHRO, like basically CHRO, it's the highest position that you can get if you're an HR practitioner. Siguro mababa na, if we're looking at local companies, siguro mababa na yung mga 200, 300K. Can go as high as 500, 600, 700. And
Wow.
if
A
you want to
month
put
yun, di
it,
ba, TJ? A
yeah,
month.
a month. If you want to put it siguro if closer to the fresh grads, to the entry level, a competitive HR range would be around 18 at least for fresh grads. 18, and then if you look at progressing career, HR specialist should be around 25. Entry level for HR manager at least should be, again, depende kasi if it's a local company, then medyo iba yung conversation altogether. But for HR managers, safe siguro mga around 60. Mababa na yun for an HR manager. Can go as high as 150, 200.
Wow. Taas, ano? Tapos reason for resigning from previous job, 15,000 pa rin. Bago. Hindi nagbago.
Like, put it this way, kasi diba, the job of the HR people is to take care of your people. So why will you pay the one that's taking after your
Oo,
people only this much? Diba?
that's true.
Mag-invest kayo dun sa taong nag-aalaga ng mga tao nyo.
Ang may bagong ang title ngayon ng HR sa ibang bansa, we are being called as performance coach. Imagine kasi you take care of the performance of every individual member of your company through counseling, coaching, and these
One-to-one.
skills that are really one-on-one. No? Talagang hindi mo makukuha ang skill yan in other profession. Only HR, particularly those who have inkling towards behavioral science and psychology. Alam nila how to improve performance of every individual member. A performance coach ang isang magandang tahakin na avenue sa ating profession.
Or people
Correct.
and culture leader. Yun yung mga
People,
ganun
yun na.
aspect.
People and culture. Yun na yung mentors, coaches, and people and culture. Parang, yun yung, may mga nakita kong gano'n yung title. Lead, people and culture. Okay. People and
Yes,
culture. Okay.
towards
So,
the same line. No?
yep. We have
Anyway,
multiple
so we're
questions.
not just being viewed as administrators na puro paperwork lang or implementers of policies. Ang focus natin talaga is how to improve the performance of every individual, not just monitoring and giving evaluation, but talagang how we can improve them through a
Developing.
one-on-one coaching, developing their skills and maturity sa trabaho. Kasi they may be skillful, pero hindi sila mature emotionally, mentally, and psychologically. O may problema
Correct.
ka pa rin.
Yep.
Kaya yung people development mo should be holistic. Okay, that's why we have coach like Coach Darwin, who is a life coach himself. Kaya ang taas ng rate niyan.
EJ, we're already past the hour. I would like to ask first, I would like to thank you for participating here at the HR Cafe. We're
Cool.
really happy and proud that you gave us your time and that you've proven that you are very skillful and an expert on this particular topic. I would like to give you the floor so that you can give your last words, a few last words, encouraging our HR people, our talent acquisition people about the role of talent acquisition or anything that you would like to tell them. And also, if you would like to promote anything, please take this time for you to do it. Then after
Cool.
you, Better Alan will be next, and then I'll be closing the show.
Cool. Thanks, that. First, I'd like to greet my mom. Hi, mom.
Hello po, tita.
Dito ako sa condo niya. Nakikigamit ako ng workstation niya. And then my kids, MJ, RJ, AZ, and my wife. Hello. Right. Basically, before last words, yeah, we're hiring. My current team, I'm with Resource Solutions. We're hiring for the banking and finance industry. If you want to look me through LinkedIn, TJ.Pestaño, we're hiring for a lot. We have a lot of requisitions to fill right now, from senior, like C level, down the line. So if you're looking for opportunities, look for me on LinkedIn, drop me a message. I'll be happy to discuss. Maybe thoughts for or takeaways for HR, for TA professionals. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all human beings, right? Treat your candidates the way you want to be treated.
Agree.
And if you put your best foot forward in trying to apply for a job, you do the same in interviewing your candidates. What goes around comes around, right? Always treat your candidates the way you would like to be treated. Give closures, keep them updated, and manage expectations. And another thing is, if your passion is not there, if your heart is not there to whatever it is that you're doing, be it in HR or be it in wherever, it's not too late. Ask yourself. Kasi for you to excel in whatever it is that you do, you don't just put your mind into it, you put your heart into it. Diba? Sabi nga find the job that you love, you will never have to work a day in your life. So whatever it is that you're doing, make sure your mind, your heart is in it, and that if that's the way, then you'll excel. If you're questioning, if you're in doubt, always check in with your brain and check in with your heart. It's not too late to shift careers, but just make sure that at the end of the day, pursue your passion and do what makes you happy. The rest will just follow. So if it's
TJ, how can
HR,
they contact you?
sorry.
How can they contact you if they would like to invite you to become a speaker in their company or to conduct trainings in their
LinkedIn.
organization?
Yep.
Or their headhunter.
LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, TJ Pestano. Find me on LinkedIn, TJ Pestano. And of course, from Philippine HR, we're always present in the groups. So yeah, follow, just pursue your dream and act on it. Do what
Okay,
makes us
maraming
happy.
salamat. Maraming salamat, TJ. Mentor Alan, your last words about this topic.
Two things. Na-mention to ni TJ kanina. You don't only have to invest in your recruitment software siguro, or your process mo, pinaganda mo, and your recruitment officers, and you hire good headhunters. Okay yun lahat. However, one thing for sure, pag hindi mo inalagaan yung employer brand mo, sira ka rin. I think you also have to invest in developing a very positive and attractive employer brand. Nabanggit na nga ni TJ kanina yung mga employees na nagsuot ng t-shirt ng company nila. They may be going around in the malls or whatever, pero they're proud of their company by wearing their uniform proudly. Nakaka-attract. And if your employer brand can be read or can be learned through available websites or social media, maganda ang reputation mo, it's so easy to attract. It's so easy to attract good candidates. Pero kahit gaano pa ang gawin mo kapag medyo masama ang reputation ng company, because you're not investing so much or you're not focusing so much on maintaining a good employer brand, may hirapan ka talaga mag-recruit. Hirap na hirap yung mga recruitment officers mo to attract talents that are desirable. Number two, speaking of um, interviewing, recruitment, etc., um, we will be relaunching sa Creative Moves yung pong interviewing using the emotional intelligence. So we call it emotional intelligence interviewing. Meron kami niyan pero pre-recorded. Ngayon ay re-relaunch ko po ito ng live, and I'll be offering it at a very low price. Gusto ko imbitahan ang lahat ng mga recruitment officers and everybody involved in sourcing, etc., na gustong matuto how it is done. Itong tinatawag na emotional intelligence interviewing. It is really very good dahil hindi ka magkakamali at hindi makakalusot yung mga may problema sa ugali or sa natawag nating maturity in terms of emotional, mental, and psychological aspects. Even yung leaders na hindi bagay sa company nyo. The culture fit can also be guaranteed if you know how to do emotional intelligence interviewing. That's it. Thank you, Sir Darwin.
Thank you, Mentor Alan. For everyone, to all of you who are watching right now live, and to all of those who are or who will be watching the HR Cafe program for this episode during the replay or during in our YouTube or FB pages, FB group page. I just want to focus on two things because TJ and Mentor Alan has already provided so much ideas about the importance of recruitment, why do we need to make sure that we upskill and learn more about recruitment. But for me, two things. First is that recruitment as a talent acquisition professional, you have two main tasks. You are the core business foundation and you're the gatekeeper. Core business foundation because without you, no one will have their jobs in the organization. Walang magkakaroon ng trabaho kung hindi maganda ang proseso ng recruitment. Second is you're the gatekeeper. You have to make sure that you only hire the best candidate for the role because if you're hiring the best people, then you will help your organizations grow. You'll be helping your people also develop and grow. Second is that we need to be reminded of ourselves that recruitment, acquisition, it's a constant battle for the best talent pool in the industry. A lot of large organizations are bring up their A game in providing different perks, different benefits, offering a lot of high salaries and whatnot. As our organization coming if we're a medium to small to medium organizations or a startup conglomerate or whatnot, you can still compete, and you will be competing if you hire the best acquisition people who look into proper branding and look into selling more of the culture of the people, of the opportunities you have in the organization. Let us please be reminded of what TJ mentioned earlier. Napakaganda. HR people are the one who takes care of your people, of your core business, of your main business, of why companies are getting profits. Do not pay them na mababa kasi sila ngayon nag-aalaga ng mga tao nyo di ba? You should pay them as much as or if not more than the people who are bringing in business. So that's it for another session of the Philippines HR Group HR
Sir
Cafe.
Darwin,
Yes.
may kasabihan may kasabihan na if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys.
Correct.
Anyway, thank you so much.
Another episode of the HR Cafe, Usapang Trabaho, Buhay at Iba Pa, will be next week, same time, 3 p.m. Sunday. Maraming salamat po. God bless, and we'll see you around next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
TJ. God
See you
bless.
next Sunday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. End of broadcast.